Hey, welcome back Finxters. Until now we have learned how we can navigate through the parse tree. Now it's turn to learn how we can search for specific elements within the parse tree. There are many BeautifulSoup methods which allow us to search a parse tree. However, the most commonly used methods are find and findall. So we will be discussing these tags in details along with examples. But before we proceed into the examples, let us try and understand the subtle difference between the two. Now, findall is used to find all the instances of a given tag or a string in the entire HTML document. For example, if you want to find all the instances of the paragraph tag within the given HTML document, in that case, you can use the findall method. However, if you know that the document contains only one tag, or if you want to search only one instance of a given tag, in that case you can use the .find method. Now this can be confusing. However, I'll explain these things with the help of examples and then it will be clear to you. So let us dive into the examples one by one. Let us discuss the findall method and then we will jump into the find method. Before we proceed with the examples, I just wanted to show you that I have made a few changes to our example web page so that I can help you with better examples, since we are now discussing the final section of web scraping, and after this we will discuss live examples of how we can scrape and extract documents and elements from a given web page. So this is how our example web page looks as of now. So if you remember, previously this was the entire page. Now I have added couple of sections, this part and then the table. So I have done this purposely. Let us have a look at the page source. And now if you can see, it's a longer HTML code and it also contains a div tag as well as ID tag. So this is what we are going to use in this example. That's why I added a few more things to this website. Now let's get back to our example. Let us try and find all the instances of the paragraph tag using the findall method. So soup.findall, and then we want to find the paragraph tag. Now let's try and execute this code. Right click, run. Oops, we forgot to print the output. So print soup.findall p. Now let's try and execute our code once again. And as you can see, we have all the instances of the paragraph tag. Now if you notice properly, findall has returned us all the instances of the paragraph tag within a list. So this is the first instance of the paragraph tag, this is the second instance, and so on. Since this is a list, so you can loop through each element, or you can even use indexing to access the elements or each instance separately. For example, let us try and access this element, image below, as you can see highlighted on the output screen. Hence, let us try and copy out the previous print statement, then print. And now, instead of simply printing all the instances, we are going to access the second p tag or the second instance of the p tag. In order to do that, let us simply specify the index of the second element or the second instance of the p tag. So that would be 1 in this case, since indexing begins from 0. So the second element or the second p tag would be 1, or the index would be 1. Now let us try and execute this code. Before that, let us comment out the previous print statement. And now let's execute our code. And as you can see, we have successfully extracted the second p tag from our parse tree. Now we have the tags along with the text. So do you remember what we used to do in order to simply get the text from the tags? Yeah, you're right. We simply used to use the string method, and that would print only the text within the tags for us. So let us check that. And as you can see, we now have only the text. Now you can extract the text within the tags using another method. Now let me demonstrate that to you. Instead of string, you can use dot text, and this will also serve a similar purpose for you. Now as you can see, I have already cleared out the output screen. Now let us try and check the dot text method to see if it works. And as you can see, just like the dot string method, the dot text method has also helped us to extract the text between the given tags. Now we have different filters which we can pass into the findall method. And understanding these filters is crucial, as these filters are used again and again within the parse tree or the HTML page. We can use these filters based on the tag's name, on its attributes, on the text of a given string, or a combination of all these. So let us discuss the filters that we can pass into the findall method one by one. We already discussed one of the filters that we can pass to the findall method. So as you can see, we passed a tag which returned us the string within the tag. Now let us try and find the div tag, or all the instances of the div tag within our HTML document. So print soup.findall, and in this case we are trying to search the div element. So that's it. Let's try and execute a code. Before that, let us comment this part. Okay, now let's execute our code. And as you can see, we have successfully extracted the div element within the HTML document. Now, to be super sure, let us check this in our HTML document as well. So where's the div tag? Here we go. So this is the div tag that we just extracted. Now if you remember, while discussing the HTML structure, we discussed about the div tag. So let us have a look at the div tags. As you can see, that our HTML document can have several div tags. In this case, we only have one because this is a very basic example. Do not worry, we will be diving into a better example later, or maybe in the next video itself. However, as of now, let's consider that we have this div tag. Now, as you can see, the div tag also contains a class. That means the div tag can have classes as well as IDs, as you can see in this case. Though this is not a div tag, this is a table which has a certain ID which is used to identify this table. Now we can also use these attributes along with our findall method and then try and make specific searches. So what do I mean by that? Suppose if you try and search for the div tags, then you will get all the instances of the div tag. But what if you only want to search the div tag which is identified and has the class myDiv, as in this case? Suppose this document would have other div tags, which is generally the case with longer web pages. In that case, trying to find div would result in an output that would display all the div elements that are present within your HTML page. But now we only want to search the div tag for which the class is myDiv. So let us try and have a look at that. Now there are two ways using which you can specify a class within the findall method. Let us have a look at the first way. You need to use class underscore equals and then the name of the class, my div. And then you are good to go. Let us try and execute this and see if we successfully extracted the div tag. And as you can see, since we only had a single div tag for which the class was my div, we extracted the tag successfully. However, if there were several other div tags which had different classes, in that case, only and only this div tag for which the class would be my div would have been displayed on the screen. Now let us discuss the second way or the second method of using the class within the findall method. Now this is also one of the major advantages of the find and findall methods. You can use key value pairs in order to perform specific searches. So what do I mean? Let us have a look at an example. The name of our class is my div, so I created a dictionary and within it class is the key while the value would be the class name, which happens to be my div. Now let us try and execute this code. And as you can see, we have successfully extracted the my div tag once again. Now an advantage of this method is if a certain tag has multiple classes. For example, it might happen that you find in an HTML document there's a div tag which has couple of classes, maybe my div and my div1. So in that case, since this is a dictionary, you can once again define the name of the second attribute using class as the key and then the name of the second class that was defined within the HTML document or within the div tag. So I hope that was clear. This won't work for us because there's no my div2 in our case, but do not worry, we will surely have a look at a more complex example in the later half of this course where everything will be clear to you. Now let us try and understand how we can find a certain element or a tag using an ID. For example, in this case, our table has an ID blogs. So we are going to use this ID to search the table. Now just like the div tags, your HTML document can have several tables, unlike this one where we have only one table. And then in that case, each table can have different ID tags. They can also have different classes. So this is going to be very useful when you are trying to scrape a web page. So let us quickly have a look at how we can use the ID tag to scrape our web page or table from our web page. Soup.findall, and we are trying to search the table element, and within the table we have the ID blogs. So this is quite similar to the one that we used for defining classes. The only difference in this case is we do not have any underscore for ID as we had for the class. So let us try and execute this code and see if this works for us. And as you can see, we have successfully extracted the table and printed it on our output screen. Now we can also pass multiple elements or multiple tags within the findall method. In order to do that, let us have a look at an example. So we have the print statement and then we have the soup.findall method, and within this method we are passing the div tag as well as the image tag. So we are passing the div and the image tag within a list inside the findall method. Now let us try and check the output of this code so that things are more clear to us. And as you can see, we have a list which has couple of elements. The first element is the image tag, while the second element is the contents of the div tag. Now, as we discussed, using the findall method, we can find all the instances of a given tag. So what if we want to find only the first two instances of a given tag? For example, the first two instances of the paragraph tag within our HTML document. Now, in order to do that, findall method provides us an attribute using which we can limit the number of instances of a given tag that we want. Now the name of this attribute is limit. So using the limit attribute, let us try and find the first two instances of the paragraph tags present within our HTML document. So print soup.findall, then we have our paragraph tag, and then we define the limit attribute. And since we want to extract only the first two instances of the paragraph tag, so we define 2 within the limit attribute. Now let us try and have a look at the output of this code. And as you can see, using the limit attribute, we have limited the number of instances or the number of elements returned by the findall method to 2. So this can be useful at times while scraping contents from a given web page. Now that brings us to our discussion on the find method. Now the find method has a similar functionality to the findall method, but there's a difference. As I mentioned before, using the find method, you can find the first instance or a particular instance of a given tag. That means if you want to find only one result, then you can use the find method. That means when you want to find only one result, in that case you can use the find method. So let us have a look at an example which will make things clear. Let's print soup.find div. Now let's check the output. So we have the first occurrence of the div tag in our HTML code. Now that we have only one div method, so this might not make things clear. So instead of using the div tag, let's use the paragraph tag. We have lots of paragraph tags within our HTML code. So this should make things clear to you. And as you can see, the first occurrence of the paragraph tag has been displayed on the screen. Now this is quite similar to soup.p as we learned before. So let's try and check that. And as you can see, soup.p also returns us the first occurrence of the p tag. But there's a difference here as well. The find method helps us to find a specific tag using key value pairs, just like the findall method. Now let us try and extract the following p tag which has a certain class myDiv2. So as you can see, this p tag has a class myDiv2, and we have another p tag which has the class myDiv2. So when we use the find method along with the class attribute, in that case we should get this part displayed on our output window. Just a disclaimer here, I made a few changes again so that you can visualize the difference between the find method and the simple soup.p method. So without further delay, let us try and have a look at that. So instead of printing soup.p, let us try and print soup.findall, or find, as we are using the find method now. Then we want to find the p tag which has the following class. So class underscore equals mydiv2. Now this should help us to extract this portion of our HTML document. Now note that this is not only the p tag which has the class mydiv2, we also have another p tag which also contains mydiv2. However, since we are using the find method, we will only get the first instance of the p tag which has the class mydiv2. So let us try and execute our code now. And as you can see, we have successfully extracted the exact element that we wanted. Now to further visualize things and further visualize the difference between the find and findall methods, let us use findall instead of find in this case. And now let's check the output. And as you can see, in this case, we have both the p tags that contain the class mydiv2. Now that was it for this video. In the next video, we are going to discuss how we can extract the following table as you can see on the screen. And that could be considered as a small or our first project on scraping a web page. After that, in the next video, we will also discuss how we can scrape a real web page. That would give you a real-time example so that you don't face any problem later when you try to extract web pages or contents from web pages. So if you have time, please join me in the next video.